Now to the latest on a mass shooting at a party overnight. New details are coming in about what led to 15 people being shot and 2 people being killed there. Investigators say a fight broke out there early this morning and things escalated. The people shot range in age from 20 years old to 44. The party was held at a business in the Park Manor neighborhood. It's near 67th and South Chicago Avenue. NBC5's Lexi Suter has the latest.
A chaotic scene early this morning in Chicago's Park Manor neighborhood.
We got a total of 4 people shot so far. I need at least 3 ambulances.
In a matter of minutes, the number of people shot would grow to a total of 15. 2 people were killed. 30-year-old Nicca Dotson and 39-year-old Lionel Darling.
We're getting more cars over there, 6817 South Chicago. All units available, head that way.
Police were called to this business on South Chicago Avenue around 4:40 this morning. Superintendent David Brown says the gunfire started while some sort of gathering was going on inside.
We don't know what the celebration associated with this party was at this point. We're still trying to follow up on some leads.
Part of the investigation includes learning more about this business, described as an auto shop and tow company that also has a bar.
There's going to be a really deep dive with BACP and with our districts on whoever this owner is to determine of any kind of violations in the past, and we'll hold them accountable because of this incident.
The victims' ages range from 20 to 44 years old, and their conditions from good to critical. Community activist Jamal Green calling for an end to this violence.
I'm tired of doing these press conferences. I'm tired of reacting to the fact that these situations continue to happen. It's going to take for the community to really rise up and demand change.
Police found 4 guns inside this building, but they are still looking for the person or people who pulled the trigger. The next step in this investigation will be to interview the victims and witnesses in hopes of piecing together exactly what happened here. Reporting in Park Manor, Lexi Suter, NBC5 News.
All right, thanks to Lexi.
We begin tonight with breaking news. 2 mass shootings in the same neighborhood just minutes apart. 10 people wounded tonight. Neighbors fearful, police frustrated. NBC5's Alex Maragos live with details for us. Alex.
Allison, those 10 people were shot in 2 separate scenes just 3 blocks apart here in the North Lawndale neighborhood. Among the 10 shot, 3 teenagers. Police said the first scene was at 13th and Christiana, where 5 people were shot. The other 5 people were hit when a shootout happened here at Douglas and Ridgeway 5 minutes later. Deputy Chief Ernest Cato does not think the shootings are connected and lamented the ongoing violence.
I'm not happy about it at all. I think all of us should be sad about what's going on in our country and in our city.
We have just learned within the last 5 minutes that one of those teenagers, a 14-year-old, has just passed away at the hospital. Reporting live in North Lawndale, Alex Maragos, NBC5 News.
An awful update. All right, we're going to stay on top of this. Alex, thank you very much.
Developing tonight, Chicago is also reeling from its second mass shooting in a day. The first happened this morning in West Garfield Park. 5 people were shot there. Now, just afternoon, 5 more people were shot in the Gresham neighborhood next to a convenience store. No one is in custody. He joins us now, Chicago Hospital, with what he's found out. Chris?
Allison, 2 of the men shot today are in critical condition at University of Chicago Hospital right behind me. Now, we do not know their ages, but this all comes at a time when many people across Chicago are trying to find answers to stop the violence. It's happened again. Another mass shooting in Chicago, this time in broad daylight in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood at 79th and Justine.
Caller says a person has been shot.
Police say 5 people were taken to the hospital. According to CPD, 3 people got out of a silver sedan and shot the victims, who were standing next to a food mart. This overturned cooler in the middle of the crime scene.
We know the individuals across the street because they're right across the street from my office. Individuals that we give pizza to, right, and we build relationships with. So we're not sure exactly where this came from or what actually happened.
Autry Phillips runs a community outreach program across the street. He says their job is to help keep everyone calm.
I think gun control is one of the major issues that we're having in the city of Chicago. I think the task force that the president and our superintendent was talking about, I think it will actually be effective and help with some of the crime that's in our communities. Any help that we can get from the federal government is actually something that we can use right now.
Father Michael Flager, whose church is nearby, says the city needs a plan to stop the violence.
We've got to get people to come forward with information If you don't want to talk to the police, talk to us, but talk to somebody.
Chicago in one day today. Earlier on the west side, 5 people were shot and taken to the hospital. They were listed in good condition. Reporting live outside University of Chicago Hospital, Chris Coffey, NBC 5 News.
Chris, thanks.
A 4-year-old boy is one of the victims killed in Chicago this holiday weekend. He is also one of several children who have been shot just in the past few days. NBC5's Lisa Chavarria, live from Chicago Police Headquarters. Lisa, what have we learned about that youngest victim?
Well, Michelle, what we know is that his family says that he was spending the night by his dad's house, and while he was sleeping, that is when bullets came flying through the window and struck that 4-year-old little boy. Now, that little boy, his name was Michael Moultrie Jr. He was shot in the head twice while he was inside of this home near 65th and South Ellis on Friday night. He was rushed to Comer Children's Hospital, and after spending nearly 2 days there, tragically, Michael died from his injuries last night. He is one of at least 8 children who were shot over the holiday weekend. 2 siblings were among the kids that were wounded. They were volunteering at a back-to-school event at a gas station Saturday afternoon in East Garfield Park. Their dad is outraged.
So many young babies out there when this tragedy took place. This was completely uncalled for and completely not understood.
You know you got some children, some teenagers, some grown adults, and they're doing wrong on this street, then it's up to you to step up and step to them and put them in line.
Andrew Holmes and other community leaders announced last night that there is a $9,000 reward for anyone with information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the gunman who killed Michael Moultrie Jr. Now, Michael is one of at least 4 people who were killed over this holiday weekend. At last check, according to Chicago police data, at least 57 people in total were wounded in shootings that took place across the city. Now, as far as a response from Chicago police, we're expecting to hear from Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown a little bit later this morning.
Well, hello to you, Lauren. You know, this is the second weekend in a row we've had to tell you about multiple children being killed by gunfire in Chicago. A total of 16 people killed this weekend. 3 of them were children. Grand total of 63 people shot this weekend. And now a group of Chicago business owners are putting up a big pot of money to ensure that those shooters of these babies are caught. The youngest victim killed this weekend was 20-month-old Sincere Gaston. He was shot in the chest while riding in his car seat near 60th and Halsted Saturday. His mother was grazed by a bullet as well. 10-year-old Lena Nunez died that evening after being hit in the head by a stray bullet. She was inside a second-floor apartment in Logan Square when bullets came through the window in the 3500 block of West Dickens. Police believe the stray bullets came from 2 groups firing at each other outside. Then there was a 17-year-old killed in Humboldt Park that same day during a fight. An 8-year-old girl also shot while sitting inside on the couch at 66th and Southwood in West Inglewood. Luckily, she did survive with a graze wound to her head, though. Just last weekend, 106 people shot, including 3-year-old Makai James and 13-year-old Amaria Jones, both of whom were killed during the deadliest weekend of the year. The newly formed group called I'm Telling, Don't Shoot is now offering $50,000 in reward money to help find shooters in the cases of the littlest victims. We're talking about Makai and Sincere. The business owners are backed by Inglewood Alderman Stephanie Coleman, and they even showed the cash during yesterday's news conference.
If 50 won't get you, we're going to put up another 25. If that 75 don't get you, we're going to put up 100. So you telling me with $100,000 reward, nobody's going to say nothing?
So to report information in those 2 cases, you can call the tip line at 312-747-8380. And also a $2,000 reward is being offered in the case of Lena Nunez. We expect to hear from Police Superintendent David Brown later on this morning at 10:30. Reporting live from CPD headquarters, Courtney Koosman, WGN News.
Caught on camera, a shooting leads to a crash into a building on Chicago's west side. A closer look shows us a little girl who was in the middle of it all. CBS 2's Stephen Graves is live in our street side studio. Stephen, you spoke to a fast food worker who came to the rescue.
Yeah, Jim. She says it is a miracle this girl was not hurt physically. But this video just goes to show how easily these innocent kids can be caught in the middle of violence.
Wow. Wow, like what happened?
That was Popeye's manager Rose Williams' reaction when this interrupted the regular lunchtime rush. A black car comes plowing into another vehicle, barely misses people who were shocked in the drive-through line. Feet from Rose and her workers.
Just going through my head, I was just really trying to make sure my employees was okay.
None of them were hurt, but if you look at the car crashed into the building, a man walks away limping, a woman carrying a little girl.
The little girl, she was a little upset probably because, you know, she's scared.
Scared because Chicago police say moments before this crash, someone shot the man and woman she was riding with. It happened here near the Kedzie Green Line CTA stop, about a mile from the fast food restaurant at Chicago and Kedzie. Back there, you can see the back window of the car shattered, a bullet hole toward the top. The man was shot in the leg. Williams helped the woman who was shot in the arm and trailing blood.
She ran inside and, you know, she's bleeding everywhere. But once the police came and calmed her down, she was very calm.
The person in the other car involved walked away with paramedics. Williams' mind now with the little girl innocently caught in the crosshairs.
The violence is a lot. Since I grew up, I never seen it this bad. Honestly, it's really, really bad. Like, it's outrageous now.
Violence she has seen and heard of too much. Now, the man and woman shot were taken to Stroger Hospital and are in serious condition. Latest update from police, no shooter is in custody. Reporting live in the Streetside studio, Stephen Graves, CBS 2 News. Jim.
Stephen, thank you.
Breaking now, still in his hospital gown. Only our cameras were there as this Chicago police officer returns to work hours after he was shot in the face.
Our Charlie DeMar live outside the 18th Police District on the near north side tonight. Charlie.
Brad and Erica, good evening. That officer was shot in the cheek, and it really was an incredible scene here earlier tonight at the 18th District. Around 7:30, that Chicago police officer released from the hospital and returned here to the 18th District with officers awaiting him, saluting him. We do know that a gun was recovered today, and there is also somebody in custody. Order! Order! Still wearing his hospital gown and just hours after he was shot in the face, this Chicago police officer walked into the 18th District tonight, welcomed by fellow officers saluting him.
I got a man with a gun, more units, shot in the cheek, possible through and through.
According to police, staff at the Ulta Beauty near Sheffield and North Avenue noticed someone acting erratically inside the store and called police. Second Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins.
We do know that the offender and the person he was with were not wearing masks, and there was some type of confrontation. It's too early to say if that confrontation was the result of them not wearing a mask.
The confrontation spilled from inside the store to the parking lot. 3 shots were fired at the officer. The officer was hit once. Police say the shooter tried getting into a car. Officers on scene focused much of their attention on this silver Chevy.
At 3:30 in the afternoon on a Monday, it's very unsettling.
Emily lives across the street from the busy Lincoln Park shopping center. She heard the shots.
I mean, if they're going to shoot a police officer, they're going to shoot anybody. And I think that's what kind of gives me the chills. And it's scary, no matter who you are.
This is the gun police say was used to shoot the officer. Not only did the officer survive, tonight he's back home and with his family.
Let's say it's a centimeter or 2 at the most away from striking another part of his head instead of going through his cheek. It was that close.
And again, one person is in custody. Chicago police said that they were questioning a woman who was with that alleged shooter, but at last check, no word on any charges or if she was detained again. But that was at last check. One person, though, is in custody. We are live tonight from the 18th District. Charlie DeMar, CBS 2 News. Erica.
Thank you, Charlie.
Now, a developing story in Wicker Park today. A mass shooting from over the weekend has business owners and residents calling for action.
One person was killed, 4 others were injured when at least one gunman opened fire early yesterday morning. It was all caught on camera. Here's Chris Hush.
At least 8 rapid gunshots fired in Wicker Park early Sunday morning. That was just round 1. more than a dozen this time, leaving a 32-year-old man dead from a shot to the chest. 4 other people, men and women ranging in age from 22 to 30 years old, wounded as bullets flew through the 1500 block of Milwaukee Avenue, the entertainment district of Wicker Park.
It was very jarring to see, I think.
Nancy Awad was awakened by the gunfire outside her window around 3:40 in the morning.
They, pulled him out from behind the car and placed him on the gurney and then put him into the ambulance.
From residents to longtime bar owners.
It's horrific to have that happen, like the Wild Wild West right in front of you, right out in the street.
Wicker Park community members are calling for more police and solutions.
In terms of tackling the violence itself, I don't know. These are questions that keep me up at night as well. I don't know what can be done.
Information from police is limited, a motive unknown. No one is in custody, and it's unclear if any of the victims knew each other or are connected to the shooter, who police say was in a dark-colored vehicle last seen on Milwaukee. The investigation ongoing, but so are fears from those who call Wicker Park home.
One of the door guys was walking one of the girls home. They stuck him up. This is only a week ago. At gunpoint, took all her tips, everything she's working for. Girl's traumatized. She quit her job because it's obviously she's scared.
Chris Hush, NBC 5 News.
To some breaking news right now, a deadly day in Philadelphia that we have to share with you because 8 people were shot, 7 dead, another surge of gun violence for the city in 2021. In one of the cases, a 15-year-old boy was shot to death inside a home on Hollywood Street in Grays Ferry. Police say at least 16 shots were fired from 3 different guns. The victim hit 3 times. Investigators say several people were inside the home when the shots rang out, but at this point, we don't know of anyone else who was hurt here. In Kensington tonight, police found 2 men shot to death inside a home on Rose Hill Street. Both were found on the 2nd floor with multiple gunshot wounds. The killer still out there tonight. And in Olney, 2 more victims of gunfire today. Skyforce 10 over Rubicam Street, where police found a woman with multiple gunshot wounds. She was later pronounced dead. A male was taken to the hospital and is in stable condition. Now, this brings the homicide total in Philadelphia to 61 so far this year. That's up 35% from this time last year. And for some perspective, 2020 was one of the deadliest years on record for the city.
20 minutes of nonstop news begins with a city fed up and frustrated over the gun violence epidemic. This afternoon, a 6-year-old boy is fighting for his life after he was shot sitting in a car in West Philadelphia. His father was shot and killed right in front of him.
It's out of control. I mean, what can you say? It's out of control. The hurtful thing is women and kids getting shot. When you hear kids and women getting shot, you know what I mean, that's really hurtful.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Jacqueline London.
And I'm Stefania Jimenez. The 6-year-old boy is one of 56 children hit by gunfire in 2021. And to put that into perspective, you see that visual right there? That's about 2 full classrooms of students who have been personally victimized by gun violence so far this year. And the thing is, it's only mid-April. NBC 10's Danny Freeman is live outside police headquarters. So, Danny, what's the latest here and what are people saying about this?
The latest in this particular investigation is that we actually learned the identity of the father who was killed in that triple shooting last night. He's 28-year-old Joshua Butts. Meanwhile, his 6-year-old boy, as you noted, still in the hospital. And folks we spoke with today are just devastated about this whole incident because they know that boy will now face trauma for the rest of his life.
And not only takes it up a notch, but it just sickens me. It sickens all of us, and we're tired of seeing this, quite frankly.
A chaotic scene spanning blocks last night in West Philadelphia. Gunshots fired into a parked car near a school before sunset. The driver tried to rush away before crashing down the street. A triple shooting, leaving a father dead and a 6-year-old in the hospital.
The kid jumped out the car, foaming, you know what I mean, out the mouth and everything.
Today, crime scene tape and remnants of the awful night. And once again, a community in Philadelphia is left speechless.
It's out of control. I mean, what can you say? It's out of control.
Masio Sheely owns the auto repair shop next to where the crash happened, and he says it hurts so much when kids are involved.
We're killing each other. I don't know why we're killing each other. That's what bothers me so much, that we're just killing each other in a rapid pace.
So far this year, 56 children under the age of 18 have been shot in Philadelphia. 17 kids have been victims of homicides, which is up from 5 kids killed during the same time last year.
All of us should be horrified.
Aleda Garcia with the National Homicide Justice Alliance says she hopes new promises, plans, and investment from the city really does turn into action.
There's always hope. There always has to be hope. But I also think that we can't sleep on this.
Because waking up to more death is unbearable. And at this point, police have not made any arrests in this triple shooting. Meanwhile, of course, as we get more information on this boy's condition, we'll be sure to report them back to you here. From police headquarters, Danny Freeman, NBC 10 News.
Just when we think we've heard the worst, something else happens that's even more unbelievable. Danny, thank you.
Another murder overnight. Continued a violent streak in Philadelphia. NBC 10 along A Street in Kensington. Someone shot a man here 6 times around 11 o'clock. He was taken to the hospital but didn't make it. So far, no arrests. And with the city's murder rate at unprecedented levels, Philadelphia is racing to come up with a plan to stop it.
And today they reveal the idea they have. Take a look at what they're up against here. Before the murder late last night, Philadelphia was at 82 homicides for the year. That is up 23% from this time last year. And 2020 was one of the deadliest years on record. Yeah, so how's the city trying to reverse the trend? That's where NBC 10's Miguel Martinez-Valle comes in. He's live in Center City for us with more details on that. Miguel.
Yeah, so as you said, we've had hundreds of shootings so far this year, and City Council, they all agree. They say that something needs to be done. So they're planning a program to address and end the violence while also helping victims.
I have one son that he was shot 11 times minding his own business on 52nd and Market.
Stories like these fill our city with many families affected by gun violence, and that number growing due to a particularly violent year. Yesterday alone, there were 4 homicides, bringing the year total to 83 compared to 65 this time last year. That's why City Council is planning to roll out the Anti-Violence Resource Network. City Council President says it'll be a one-stop shop where people who are at risk for engaging in violence or need help finding work can do so quickly. From there, the person needing help would get connected to a program that would address their concern, and the program will initially be funded by the city. After that, the plan is to get help from the state and the federal governments.
You can't ask people to figure out what website to go on by the city, state, or federal government. Why don't we give them a simple number, a 611 number as an example?
Now, we're told every city council member agrees with this program, is on board, so this is expected to pass today. I'm Miguel Martinez-Valle, NBC 10 News.
A barrage of bullets in a drive-by shooting in West Philadelphia left 1 person dead and 2 others injured tonight. Police say 3 separate weapons fired off at least 40 shots. Investigators say the suspects drove off in a dark-colored sedan. The shooters are still on the run. Gun violence also took a life today in North Philadelphia. Police were called after reports of shots fired along Broad Street near West Rockland Street. Police say a 49-year-old man was shot multiple times. He later died at the hospital. Philadelphia is now at 422 homicides for 2021. For some perspective, that's up 18% from 2020. Jim.
Yeah, Jim, police are still searching for that shooter, that person that caused all that chaos near Broad and Chew. It happened around 2:15 this afternoon, a busy section of the city, a daycare right around the corner filled with kids.
Definitely very scary because it's like I didn't know, was he okay or were they okay?
Anxious moments for families arriving to get their kids at daycare this afternoon.
Children pretty much asleep, but we woke them up to get them to safety and go into our protocol.
Just feet away, investigators say 6 people had been shot, 1 killed during a drive-by near Broad and Chew. Malika Moore tells NBC 10 she couldn't get to her son right away because the area was locked down.
The violence in Philadelphia is very just disheartening more so. It's really sad and it's I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, unfortunately.
But according to the latest crime stats, the number of shootings have been going down. In the 28-day time period, starting on July 26, there were 342 shootings. The following 28 days, 283, down 17%.
Working so hard to try to bring neighborhoods back, and things like this are just a huge setback. They're just a huge setback over and over again. And, it's frustrating.
City Councilwoman Cindy Bass showed up to the scene this afternoon. She says this area needs more protection and resources. It's a busy business corridor, and Bass says it's home to the second busiest SEPTA stop in the city at Broad and Olney. She was emotional when talking to us and had to stop the interview. You can see that right there. Very emotional. You can see it in her face. You can hear her. And I can tell you that does not happen very often. All the victims in that shooting range in ages from 19 to 28. For now, we are live outside of police headquarters. Aaron Baskerville, NBC 10 News.
Motion shared by others as well, Aaron, tonight. Thank you. The release of that surveillance video comes on the heels of a violent two-day span. Just today, within a few hours, 5 shooting scenes, including outside a school. 1 man dead, at least 4 others injured in neighborhoods across Philadelphia. One of those shootings locked down Roberts Vaux Junior High School, where a 15-year-old student was shot as class let out for the day in North Philadelphia on Master Street. The boy was hit in the shin.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and just in the past 12 hours, separate incidents left 2 women fighting for their lives. One of them, a mother of 4. One of the shootings was on Welton Street in Somerton, the other on 56th Street in King Sessing. CBS 3's Alicia Reed is in University City tonight with more. Alicia?
Good evening, Jess. As we close out Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Philadelphia police say they have their hands full with investigations. Right now, domestic homicides are up 120%, which is quite concerning, especially after 2 women were shot today, only hours apart from each other. Around 2 o'clock this morning, neighbors on 56th Street in Southwest Philly were jolted from their sleep as gunshots rang out inside this home.
Right now, we're all just in shock.
Police say a 33-year-old woman was shot twice in the back in her children's second-floor bedroom. Her 4 children, ranging from ages 1 to 11, were home at the time. Authorities say the victim's live-in boyfriend claims he found her unconscious.
I just want them to get to the bottom of what's going on.
The 1-year-old that family members tell us both adults share was also shot in the stomach. She's currently being treated at CHOP.
No major organs were hit, and it could have possibly been a graze.
While police continue to investigate exactly what happened, sources say the couple's relationship has been rocky. So far, he is said to be cooperating with detectives and has not been charged. Police say there were no signs of a break-in or struggle.
She lost a lot of blood from what I'm understanding, so we're just praying that her and her family can get through this as well.
Just after 9 o'clock in the morning, a 29-year-old woman was shot multiple times in the stomach, chest, and side near Welton and Barlow Streets in Northeast Philly.
We know that there's 6 9mm shell casings here on the highway, and we know that the vehicle that left the scene is a Jeep Cherokee Trailblazer. It has very tinted windows, and the rims are done up.
According to police, domestic homicides in Philadelphia jumped from 14 in 2020 to 31 so far this year. Experts say most victims are conditioned to believe they're to blame for all the violence.
If there are guns in the house, the statistics go up even higher. If they've been strangled once, their statistics go up tenfold that they will die of strangulation.
Now, if you are in an abusive relationship, experts suggest reaching out to someone you trust and coming up with an exit plan. We have also posted a list of agencies on our website, cbsphilly.com. Reporting live from University City, Alicia Reed, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Alicia, thank you. A 12-year-old was shot during a deadly triple shooting in North Philly. Then an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old were also hurt in 2 other separate shootings. No arrests have been made in any of these cases. NBC 10's Katie Zachary live at Temple University Hospital in North Philadelphia with the latest on 3 shootings, all involving kids, Katie.
I know it's garnered a lot of attention, Lucy. These calls came in not far apart last night. 3 shootings spread out across the city, all involving either a teenager or younger. 2 of the victims were rushed here to Temple University Hospital. 1 is still here listed in critical condition. Take a look at some video we got from that shooting scene. That happened around 7:30 last night. A 15-year-old boy was shot along the 2000 block of North 20th Street. Police say he was shot several times. Another shooting was called in at 57th Street and Elmwood Avenue. An 11-year-old boy in that case was injured by 3 bullets. He is currently at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, listed in stable condition. Then at 15th and Lehigh Streets, a 12-year-old girl was shot in the chest and the arm. She's listed in stable condition here at Temple University Hospital. Throughout the day today, St. Christopher's Hospital for Children is hosting a virtual violence prevention conference. One young girl who joined the conversation this morning when I was watching said among peers in her community, grabbing a gun on the way out the door every morning has become as normal as for most people grabbing your bags and keys. She says it is about protection.
You go out there, it's a war zone. You don't know. You could be minding your business, walking in the street, and now you in a crossfire. You could be involved or associated with someone, and now you're involved in some beef that you don't even know you're involved in.
And that young woman bravely speaking out and speaking in more general terms, not specifically weighing in on what happened in any of these 3 shooting cases last night. Again, these 3 shooting cases, all involving children as the victims. Police are still looking for the people responsible. Reporting live in North Philadelphia, Katie Zachary, NBC 10 News.
Both were there tonight, Jim. Lots of folks showed up. It had a nice, good crowd at that meeting. The moderator for that meeting started off by telling everybody in the crowd, everybody on the stage, that they are part of the answer, but also part of the problem. For hours, they talk solutions.
I'm afraid. I can't walk my neighborhood.
Feeling like she's trapped inside her house, Maxine Anderson and her grandson made their way to a gun violence meeting. Anderson tells NBC 10 instead of walking 2 blocks in the neighborhood she's lived in for 50 years, she rides the bus. She's afraid of what could happen on Philly streets.
What kind of living is that?
It's almost like you're a prisoner in your own neighborhood, in your own home.
Yes, it is. And we as neighbors, we're tired of it.
It was a full house at MLK High School in West Oak Lane.
The people that are in the community have to take ownership of their block. You have to, if you see something, say something.
We have to make education relevant to careers.
It was all about finding solutions to the darkest cloud hanging over the city. One by one, they listed off their own ideas, and they were written down in front.
But imagine if the guy down the street, that just shot somebody, and everybody in here knows it, that all of us walked up the block and just stood out front of his house.
According to police, there have been 454 homicides so far this year, more than 3,300 shootings and 1,800 victims, all up from last year, and those last 2 numbers don't include this week. Commissioner Danielle Outlaw went to the meeting and was there to simply listen to concerned neighbors like Maxine Anderson.
Those are the people, however, that I like to hear from because they know what worked. They know what the community was like prior to what it is now, and they can say, look, back then, here's what we did.
So once again, the listening tour continues. The goal was not to have a formal plan. It was to come up with some ideas and solutions and share those with police. So the work continues. For now, we're live outside of police headquarters. Aaron Baskerville, NBC 10 News.
And obviously, so much interest out in the community. Thanks, Aaron. The Philadelphia School District, meantime, is taking a step to make the streets around schools safer. School leaders said today that they're working on starting a Safe Path program. The district will use grant money to hire and train community groups to supervise schools in the morning and around dismissal time. The monitors will use bright vests and carry radios to communicate with police if they see trouble. NBC 10 wants to hear your story. What's working for your family, maybe your community? Send us an email to seekingpeace@nbcuni.com.
32 now. New calls for action this morning after Philadelphia gun violence
claims the life of a young man who was a brother and a son. 16-year-old Ajan Jackson was walking home from work with his twin sister when police say he was shot more than 10 times outside of his home in Oak Lane. We first brought you this story yesterday as it was breaking. Eyewitness News reporter Wakisha Bailey joining us live from police headquarters with the details there. Wakisha, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Janelle. Well, you know, police, they are still on the suspects for those gunmen that were involved in that fatal shooting yesterday. Now, police have also released just some really concerning numbers around how many teens have lost their lives to gun violence, all while the city is saying that they are doing their best to get those guns off the streets.
These young men have guns, and we're trying to get them off the street.
Mayor Jim Kenney is at a loss for words following Tuesday night's tragic shooting.
We've taken twice as many off the street.
According to the police, they can't keep up. The Philadelphia police released these numbers showing the number of teens losing their lives to gun violence has tripled since 2019. The most recent, a 16-year-old, Ajan Jackson, also known as AJ. He was killed Tuesday night in front of his twin sister outside their home in the city's Oak Lane neighborhood, right after the pair wrapped up a shift at a nearby McDonald's. Neighbors were upset but more concerned.
The senseless violence, why?
AJ was a junior at Randolph Tech High School, but other principals weighed in.
I'm tired of having this conversation. I'm tired that I feel like I need to have the conversation around what's taken place to brown and black youth in this city.
And later this morning, we're going to hear from Dr. Superintendent William Haidt as he discusses what the city plans are when it comes to safety and protecting our most vulnerable, our kids. And that meeting is going to take place at 10 a.m. And of course, we'll bring you the updates from that meeting. Reporting from police headquarters, Wakisha Bailey, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Wakisha. We now.
And breaking overnight, a mother of 4 is fighting for her life this morning after being shot inside of her home in southwest Philadelphia. One of her children was also hurt during that incident. Eyewitness News reporter Jan Carabeo has been following the developments for us. She joins us now live from our news center with the details there. Jan, good morning.
Janelle, good morning. Unfortunately, one tragic story after another disturbing shooting to talk about this morning. This time, a mother is shot in her home, and police say her 4 young children were at home with her. Police say she was shot twice and is now in the hospital. One of her children, just 1 year old, has also been taken to the hospital to get checked out. She has a scratch on her stomach that police say could be a graze wound. Now, this all happened just before 2 o'clock this morning on the 1100 block of South 56th Street in Kingsessing. When police arrived, they found that 33-year-old mother shot in an upstairs bedroom. She was shot twice in the back and breathing at the time, but she was taken to the hospital in critical condition, and we're told she's in bad shape this morning. Now, we're still working on getting an update about the child. Police say this mother's 4 children were at home at the time of the shooting. Those kids are just 1 to 11 years old. Police say the mother's body was actually found in what appears to be one of her kids' bedrooms. Now, this investigation is just now getting underway, and at this point, police have no motive for the attack and no suspect. They're now interviewing possible eyewitnesses.
Preliminary information is that this female was discovered by her live-in boyfriend, and he is the one that discovered her laying on the floor in the second floor rear bedroom. That boyfriend, who also lives here, is cooperating with police, and he's been transported to Southwest Detectives, where he's being interviewed.
Now, again, police do not know what led to this shooting. They're unsure if this was a home invasion or another kind of disturbance. They do have private security cameras in that area. They hope will help. Of course, we will keep you up to date. We're live in the news center. Jan Carabeo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Jim.
Thank you, Jan, for that update. Also,
the story of what happened to 4 young brothers in a West Harris County apartment is horrific and heartbreaking. But it's important to understand what happened so everyone can recognize the signs and hopefully be able to rescue other children who are having to suffer the same nightmare in silence.
This case involves a man accused of beating his girlfriend's children, killing one of them, while the mother's accused of failing to protect her boys. Lauren Tallarico is asking the tough questions tonight about how these children could suffer for so long without anyone noticing.
You know, the more we learn about this investigation, the worse it gets. Tonight, we're about to give you an inside look into the lives of this mother and her boyfriend. But first, we have got to warn you, what you're about to hear is upsetting.
Getting high is not for everybody.
These videos and pictures you are seeing are from the public Instagram accounts of Gloria Williams and her boyfriend, Brian Coulter. Scrolling through, they showcase jewelry, food, and he talks about getting drunk or high repeatedly.
I smoke mad weed, I drink mad shit, man, look, I just do my fair share of things.
Today in court, as Gloria Williams stood before a judge, prosecutors said her son told investigators Coulter's drinking led to the abuse.
He stated when the co-defendant would drink beer and alcohol, he would get very strong.
Investigators with the Harris County Sheriff's Office say the boys were beaten, locked in rooms, and malnourished, forced to live alone in the same apartment with their 8-year-old brother's remains. Court documents say Coulter beat little Kendrick Lee to death in front of 2 of his brothers just before Thanksgiving last year.
Striking him in the face, feet, buttocks, back, his legs, and testicles with closed fists and feet. He stated his younger brother's eyes were black and that he stopped blinking during the assault.
On Sunday, the 15-year-old, seen blurred here, called 911, and this hell was discovered.
In my long time of working homicides, this one's up there. You know, this one affected us.
We saw soiled carpet, no furniture at all. No bedding, no blanket.
Sheriff Ed Gonzalez also says the apartment was infested with bugs, and the 10-year-old had a broken jaw from about 3 weeks ago that he needs surgery to correct. Investigators also believe that 2 of the boys are on the autism spectrum. As for why the teen waited so long to call 911,
I believe it was absolute fear.
Investigators say the mother would drop off junk food. Neighbors say they too would provide food but had no idea what was going on inside. Alief ISD confirms the kids hadn't been in school since May of last year, and there were no CPS investigations open, according to the agency, although they had a history with the family. These kids slipped through the safety nets.
And what we know is that they work well for some, but they're not intended for all.
Allie Jacobs is the director of counseling at the Houston Area Women's Center.
What do we need to do to make sure that no other children suffer this way?
What typically happens is kind of this bystander effect, that someone thinks that someone else is going to do something. Don't rely on someone else to do the checking or do the action.
And also ask questions.
Serving meals is helpful, but also like, when was the last time you ate? Like, who's feeding you on a regular basis?
Tonight, those 3 children are in foster care. Investigators say they will play a huge role in this murder case.
My hope and prayer, and I'm sure that the community shares, is that these kids find the love, support, and care that they deserve and need.
The boyfriend in this case is charged with murder. His bond was set at $1 million. The mother is facing several charges, including tampering with evidence. Her bond was set at $900,000. We're told charges could be added. Reporting from West Harris County, I'm Lauren Tallarico, KHOU 11 News.
It is all so very infuriating. Lauren, thank you. Something else the sheriff reiterated today: if you see something, say something.
You just never know when it might save a life. Again, Lauren, thank you for the update. We'll follow this story from the recovery of those boys and the case against their mother and her boyfriend. Also read more about the allegations on our website, khou.com.
New evidence will lead to the gunman who shot and killed a 13-year-old heading to school in North Philadelphia. Gunshots could be heard in this just-released surveillance video from Judson and Clearfield Streets. One of the bullets struck the student as he was sitting in the car October 8th. However, there's still no indication he was a target. 5 others were wounded. Police have identified 29-year-old Shafiq Lewis as the gunman.
Don't have video of the actual shooting, but there's going to be a male running past your screen, and that male has been identified as Mr. Lewis. We obtained an arrest warrant for Mr. Lewis for murder, 5 counts of aggravated assault.
As you see, Lewis has distinctive tattoos on his neck and forehead. There is a $20,000 reward in this case. If you have any information, contact police. Eyewitness News is asking tough questions after calls to 911 allegedly went unanswered. The incident ended with a man shot to death in Frankfurt. Joe Holden is at police headquarters right now with our coverage. Joe, good evening.
Yuki, good evening. Let's lay out the investigation. Police say a man is banging on a door trying to get inside a home in Frankfurt. The family on the other side of that door, police say, tried calling 911 3 times. There was no answer, according to both police sources and members of that family. So a man inside took matters into his own hands, shot the intruder. Late word from homicide here at the police headquarters. No charges will be filed against that shooter. Philadelphia police tonight confirmed there is now an investigation into one family's claims they called 911 as many as 3 times late Monday night and no one answered. The investigation comes after CBS 3 learned high-ranking police officials discussed the incident on a supervisor's conference call Tuesday morning.
Sanger Street looks like it's going to be a male shot in his chest. Rescue is en route.
Police say it all started with reports a man had been shot twice around 11:30 last night while attempting to break into this home on Sanger Street in Frankfurt.
He actually forced his way into the property by kicking the front door, actually kicked it completely off its hinges.
Turns out the family had called 911 3 times for help before the shooting, according to off-camera interviews with family members. They claim no one answered. As time wore on, police say a man inside the home retrieved his firearm and shot the intruder. We're told he has a permit to carry. A business agent for the union representing dispatchers tells CBS 3 there are severe staffing issues at the 911 center. The union argues there should be 350 dispatchers. Right now, that number is at 230. In the next 2 months, we're told classes of 60 new dispatchers will join the ranks and help alleviate some of the staffing strain. Just last week, Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw addressed staffing matters confronting her own department.
If our recruitment applicant rate does not intensify and we don't get our open positions filled, the PPD may have some difficulty providing basic public safety services to the community.
Here's a statement from Philadelphia police regarding this, quoting, "We are aware of these reports. It's being investigated by the police department to determine how many calls were made. We advise people when they call 911, do not hang up. The call will be answered. Let it ring. It will be picked up." Police say that when you do continue to hang up and then call back, your call goes to the very end of the queue. We're live outside police headquarters. Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Joe, thank you for that. The District Attorney's Office has joined a new initiative aimed to reduce gun violence in West and Southwest Philadelphia. It follows 2 deadly shootings in Southwest Philly last night. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo was at the scene of one of those shootings right now.
Yuki, 2 people were shot while riding in their car. It happened just outside of this Wendy's last night. One of the victims is a pregnant woman. We have more on that in a moment. But first, this new effort is working to help people impacted by gun violence.
1, 2, 3.
Officials held a ribbon cutting at the Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia at 56 and Chestnut Streets, where District Attorney Larry Krasner announced a new initiative headquartered right here.
I am delighted to have a chance to talk about the West-Southwest Collaborative Response to Gun Violence.
The collaborative specifically aims to help those impacted by gun violence in West and Southwest Philly, areas that have seen spikes in shootings during the pandemic.
If you want to be working in the community, you have to be in the community.
The more organizations that come together like we come together now, there's a whole lot more work that we can do.
The announcement comes just hours after a shooting left a 25-year-old man dead and a 24-year-old pregnant woman critically injured. It happened near a Wendy's at the Penrose Shopping Plaza just after 8:30 Sunday night. You can see some of the roughly 30 bullet holes left in the car the victims were riding in.
The vehicle she was in was targeted. She was actually a passenger in that vehicle.
The woman was shot once and rushed to a nearby hospital where authorities say she and her unborn child have been stabilized.
The fact that she was in a vehicle that was shot at so many times, it's really a miracle that she was able to get out and get to the hospital.
And you can still see some of the crime scene tape left behind from that shooting. Now, police say no arrests have been made. Officials also say that woman who was injured is one of 220 women shot in Philadelphia so far this year. Reporting live in Southwest Philly, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.